You are lying on the couch, staring at a screen. You feel a heavy wave of guilt for not going to the gym. You label yourself as lazy. You think it is a deep character flaw. But for 99% of human history, this wasn't a choice. Burning calories without an immediate survival need was not called exercise. In the harsh ancient world, it was an absolute death sentence. Today, you force yourself to run on treadmills just to burn off excess energy. It feels like a constant battle against your own instincts. Yet, our ancient ancestors only worked about 15 hours a week. They spent the rest of their time doing absolutely nothing at all. You carry their exact biology today. You are experiencing what scientists call an evolutionary mismatch. Your ancient body is lost in a modern world. Evolutionary mismatch means your physical body is perfectly adapted for a Stone Age environment, but completely outdated for your modern office lifestyle. Your brain still operates under prehistoric rules. To your primal mind, the modern supermarket does not exist. The food app on your phone does not exist. It still believes that the next meal is uncertain. It believes that winter is coming, and that a famine could strike at any moment. So when you collapse on the sofa, your brain rewards you. It shuts down unnecessary movement to conserve your most precious resource, energy. In the Stone Age, calories were the ultimate currency. Every single step you took had to be calculated. Energy was literally the line between life and death. The couch guilt you feel is a modern invention. Society tells you that resting is a moral failure, a sign of weakness and lack of discipline. But your biology knows better. Your urge to rest is not a bug in the system. It is the very feature that kept your bloodline alive. Think about the massive beasts our ancestors had to face. You did not survive the frozen tundra by doing jumping jacks in the snow. You survived by saving every ounce of strength for when it truly mattered. To understand this, we must look at the brutal economy of the Stone Age. Imagine your body as a bank account, but instead of dollars, the currency is calories. And in the Pleistocene epoch, you were almost always entirely broke. Finding food wasn't as simple as opening a refrigerator. Every single calorie had to be earned through intense physical labor and constant exposure to danger. The human body is an expensive machine to run. Just keeping your organs functioning requires a massive amount of baseline energy every single day. In the ancient world, there were no banks and no credit cards. The only currency was calories. If you went bankrupt, you simply died. Every physical action was an expensive transaction. Sprinting after a fast animal meant spending a fortune of energy with no guarantee of a meal. Sometimes, hunters had to track and chase prey for hours until the animal collapsed from heat exhaustion. This was a massive biological gamble. If the hunt failed, the hunter lost all that precious energy. This is why gathering plants and nuts was actually the most reliable income. Your brain evolved to be the ultimate accountant. It constantly calculates the return on investment for every single movement your body makes today. Right now, when you think about going for a run, your primal mind quickly checks the environment for any immediate survival threats. Your brain looks around and asks, is there a dangerous predator chasing us right now? The answer in your safe bedroom is obviously no. It asks again, is there a desperate need to forage for wild food before the winter comes? Once again, the answer is no. Because there is no immediate threat or reward, your ancient brain commands you to stay seated. It actively punishes you with feelings of laziness. This brings us to a massive misconception. We often picture early humans as constantly starving, miserable creatures fighting for a single scrap of meat. You might imagine them shivering in caves, barely surviving from one desperate day to the next. But the scientific evidence tells a very different story. In the 1960s, anthropologist Richard Borshay Lee made a shocking discovery. He lived with the Jew, Hoanzi hunter-gatherers in the harsh Kalahari Desert. Instead of finding a desperate group of starving people, he observed a thriving community. They were exceptionally healthy, well-fed, and deeply relaxed. Despite living in a dry, unforgiving landscape, their daily diet was incredibly rich. They ate a wide variety of wild nuts, roots, and fruits. They easily met their daily calorie needs without working themselves to the bone. This completely changes how we understand human survival and laziness. When researchers tallied up the hours, they found that these hunter-gatherers only spent about 15 hours a week actually working to secure their food. Compare that to your standard 40-hour work week, not including the exhausting commute, answering emails at night, and the constant underlying stress of modern life. For our ancestors, work was a brief, highly focused activity. A few hours of intense foraging in the morning was usually enough for the day. By early afternoon, the work was done. And what did they do with the rest of their vast amount of free time? Absolutely nothing. Anthropologist James Suzman calls this affluence without abundance. They did not have many material possessions, but they were rich in the ultimate luxury time. Sitting still and staring at the horizon wasn't considered laziness. It was the biological default state. It was the optimal strategy for survival. Your brain rewards this inactivity because every hour you spend not moving is an hour where precious stored calories are successfully saved for tomorrow. When they weren't resting, they were doing the most important work of all, socializing. They spent hours around the fire, talking, joking, and gossiping. They played with children in a tribe. Kids were raised by everyone, not just exhausted, isolated parents. Life was deeply intertwined and incredibly slow. And they slept. They took long naps in the afternoon heat without an ounce of guilt. Their bodies dictated their schedule, not a clock. But today, if you take a nap on a Tuesday afternoon, you wake up in a panic. You feel like you have wasted precious time. To your primitive brain, the concept of wasting time is complete nonsense. In nature, time cannot be saved, spent, or wasted. It just exists. For early humans, time was a circle. The sun rises, the sun sets. The seasons change and return. There was no finish line to cross. A hunter didn't sit around stressing about what he needed to accomplish next, Tuesday. He only cared about the present moment and the immediate environment. Modern society took that endless circle and stretched it into a terrifying, straight line, forcing your ancient brain to run a race that never actually ends. But time isn't the only thing your ancient body misinterprets today. Let's talk about your diet and the intense guilt you feel over a simple donut. You stare at a box of sweet pastries. You know they are unhealthy, but your primal brain screams at you to eat every single one. You think you simply lack discipline. But in the Pleistocene epoch, refined sugar did not exist. Finding a source of pure sweetness was incredibly rare. If an ancient human stumbled upon a beehive full of wild honey, it was a massive biological jackpot. It meant instant, pure, life-saving energy. Your brain evolved a powerful reward system. Whenever you found high-calorie, sweet or fatty foods, it flooded your system with massive amounts of dopamine. This dopamine hit was a clear command from your biology. It said to eat as much as physically possible right now because it will disappear tomorrow. In a world of constant scarcity, eating 3,000 calories of honey in one sitting was not gluttony. It was a brilliant survival strategy. Our ancestors who binged on those rare sugars built up thick fat reserves. Those fat reserves kept them warm and alive during the brutal freezing winters. The ancient humans who politely declined the honey because they were watching their weight, they simply froze to death and did not pass on their genes. You are the direct descendant of the ultimate sugar binging survivors. Their successful survival traits are permanently hardwired into your modern DNA right now. But today, your environment has drastically changed. The rare wild honey jackpot is now perfectly packaged and available at every corner store for cheap. Your primal brain does not know what a modern supermarket is. When you see a shelf full of candy, it still thinks you found a magical beehive. It rapidly pumps out dopamine, urging you to consume everything before the imaginary winter arrives. You are currently fighting millions of years of evolutionary programming. Modern food scientists know exactly how this works. They engineer processed snacks to perfectly trigger those ancient dopamine loops, keeping your brain in a constant feeding frenzy. So, your intense craving for junk food isn't a lack of personal willpower. It is just your ancient body doing exactly what it was designed to do. So let's return to your couch. When you sit there doing nothing, your body is not broken. It is entering an essential biological standby mode. Think of a modern smartphone dropping to low battery. It dims the screen and stops background apps. Your body does the exact same thing. But modern hustle culture demands that you operate at 100% capacity 24 hours a day. It tells you that rest is a weakness. This constant demand for productivity floods your brain with cortisol, a stress hormone originally designed to help you escape from sudden, life-threatening danger. For our ancestors, cortisol spiked when a predator attacked. But once the danger passed, their levels dropped and they returned to a deep, calm rest. Today, your cortisol rarely drops. You even stress about how you rest, particularly when it comes to getting a perfect 8 hours of sleep. You wake up at 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling. You panic, thinking you have terrible insomnia and your whole next day is ruined. But historians like Roger E. Kirch discovered that a continuous 8-hour sleep is a very modern artificial invention created by the Industrial Revolution. For thousands of years, humans practiced segmented sleep. They slept for about 4 hours, woke up for an hour or two, and then slept again. During this midnight waking period, they did not panic. They added wood to the fire, checked for predators, or simply chatted with their tribe. Anthropologist Polly Wiesner found that nighttime around the fire was completely different from daytime. It was a sacred time for storytelling, imagination, and culture. So when your body naturally wakes you up at 3 in the morning, it is not malfunctioning. It is looking for the midnight fire. Furthermore, you are probably trying to sleep entirely alone in a dark, silent room. To your primitive brain, this isolation is absolutely terrifying. In the wild, being separated from the snoring, breathing sounds of your tribe meant you were unprotected. It meant you were probably going to die. This is exactly why you might need a fan, a podcast, or a television playing in the background just to feel safe enough to sleep. For hundreds of thousands of years, this lazy, efficient system worked from the 2-5 cyst perfectly. We were healthy, well-fed, and deeply in tune with our natural environment. But roughly 12,000 years ago, humanity made a massive shift. We made a choice that completely rewired our daily lives and our stress levels. We discovered agriculture. We started planting seeds, domesticating animals, and building permanent settlements. We traded our nomadic freedom for the promise of a steady harvest. It sounded like a massive upgrade, but anthropologist Jared Diamond famously called agriculture the worst mistake in the history of the human race. Why? Because farming was a trap. Instead of a casual 15-hour work week, early farmers were suddenly forced to perform backbreaking labor from dawn to dusk. You had to clear rocks, dig irrigation trenches, and harvest crops under a blistering sun. The human spine was not evolved for this repetitive bending. When scientists examine ancient bones, the evidence is shocking. Studies by anthropologists like Cohen and Armelagos reveal a dark truth about the first farming villages. The bones of early farmers show severe signs of malnutrition, slipped discs, and chronic joint diseases. They were actually shorter and sicker than their hunter-gatherer ancestors. As author Yuval Noah Harari points out, we did not domesticate wheat. Wheat domesticated us. We broke our bodies to ensure the plant's survival. And with agriculture came the birth of our greatest modern psychological torment, chronic anxiety about the distant future. The hunter-gatherer only worried about today, but a farmer had to worry about next month. Would it rain enough? Would a sudden frost or a swarm of insects destroy the harvest? If the crop failed, your entire village starved. For the first time in human history, your survival depended on an unpredictable and terrifying future. This constant dread created a brand new cultural rule. Since survival now required endless daily labor, resting was suddenly viewed as a dangerous threat. If you rested, the weeds took over. The concept of laziness as a moral failure was invented right here in these early muddy fields. Soon, elite classes and kings emerged. They demanded extra grain for taxes, forcing the peasant farmers to work even harder just to survive. For the first time in human history, your self-worth was tied directly to constant, uninterrupted productivity. The concept of laziness became a moral sin. Fast forward to the Industrial Revolution. We invented the clock and the factory whistle. We literally tried to turn human beings into relentless machines. This brings us to you today. You sit in your cubicle, staring at .com, spreadsheets, feeling completely drained and exhausted by 2 in the afternoon. You blame yourself. You think you need another coffee, a new planner, or just more self-discipline. But your ancient brain is simply confused. In the Stone Age, mental focus was used in short, intense bursts. You needed it for tracking swift animals or reading dangerous weather patterns. Modern work requires 8 hours of continuous, low-intensity mental focus on completely abstract concepts. Your primal biology absolutely hates this artificial setup. Staring at a screen drains your brain's glucose reserves rapidly. By mid-afternoon, your brain pulls the emergency brake to conserve its precious energy. This is the infamous afternoon slump. It is not laziness. It is a biological self-defense mechanism designed to protect you from severe energy depletion. Furthermore, your physical body is incredibly efficient at storing energy. You inherited this elite survival trait directly from the successful Ice Age survivors. Today, you might sit for 9 hours a day, burning almost 0 calories, while being constantly surrounded by unlimited, easily accessible high-calorie food. Your ancient brain looks at this situation and rejoices. It thinks you have finally achieved the ultimate hunter-gatherer dream, permanent rest and endless food. It actively encourages you to stay on that comfortable couch and order takeout. It is diligently preparing you for a famine that never arrives. When you suddenly try to diet or exercise aggressively, your brain fights back. It triggers stress alarms, utterly convinced you are slowly starving. The modern fitness industry heavily profits from this evolutionary mismatch. They sell you guilt, telling you that your natural biology is a personal failure. But every time you feel that heavy guilt weighing you down, you must remember the truth. You are fighting hundreds of thousands of years of evolution. You cannot beat 2 million years of hardcore biological programming just by reading a motivational quote on the internet. It is a biological impossibility. Your body is not a broken, lazy machine. It is a highly optimized, elite survival vehicle that has simply crash-landed in the wrong century. The first step to true freedom is radical self-forgiveness. You have to stop fighting your own biology and start working with it instead. When that massive wave of exhaustion hits you at 2 in the afternoon, recognize it for what it is, a completely natural glucose conservation protocol. Instead of drowning your ancient brain in artificial caffeine and toxic guilt, try giving it exactly what it is begging for: a brief, unapologetic rest. You don't need to move back into a dark cave to fix this. You just need to smartly hack your modern environment. Take exercise, for example. Staring at a blank wall while running on a treadmill feels like torture because it lacks any real survival purpose. But playing a fast-paced game with your friends suddenly feels effortless. Why? Because it perfectly mimics the social, playful dynamics of an ancient tribal hunt. When it comes to your diet, relying strictly on sheer willpower is a guaranteed losing battle against your brain's extreme dopamine reward system. The secret is environmental control. If the prehistoric wild honey is not physically inside your house, your brain will not constantly demand you to eat it. And what about that terrifying insomnia? Once you understand that human sleep was historically segmented, waking up at night loses its terrifying power. When your eyes snap open at 3 in the morning, do not panic. Remind yourself that you are simply performing a routine prehistoric fire check. Read a physical book, keep the bright lights completely off, and just allow your natural second sleep cycle to wash over you without any anxiety. We live in a society that constantly glorifies extreme burnout, treating exhaustion as if it were some kind of prestigious gold medal to be won. But chronic stress is slowly destroying us. To survive this chaotic modern world, we must fiercely reclaim the ancient, sacred biological right to do nothing. But reclaiming your rest is only the first step. You must fundamentally change how you view your own reflection in the mirror every single day. When you look at yourself, you see a modern citizen who should be constantly productive, constantly working, and constantly striving for more. But underneath that modern clothing, you are looking at a brilliant, highly calibrated survivor of the incredibly harsh and unforgiving Pleistocene epoch. If you compress all of human history into a single 24-hour clock, agriculture was only invented at a few mere minutes to midnight. The Industrial Revolution, the 40-hour work week, the stock market, and the smartphone, they all appeared in the very last few seconds of that clock. We expect our bodies to perfectly adapt to a hyper-connected, artificially lit high-stress world that has existed for a microscopic fraction of time. It is no wonder your ancient brain constantly glitches. No wonder it craves sugar, begs for naps, and triggers anxiety alarms in modern traffic. A traffic jam feels like a life-or-death situation to your nervous system, because your biology has absolutely no concept of what a car is. This deep realization should not make you feel helpless. It should completely liberate you from the massive, crushing burden of modern societal guilt. Modern society was built by humans, but it was not built for human biology. It was built for profit, efficiency, and endless economic growth. You are not a machine designed to produce endless output. You are a living organism perfectly designed to survive, to connect, and to rest. Your deepest fulfillment will not come from crossing off a massive to-do list. It comes from the exact things that kept your ancestors alive: sharing a slow meal with your tribe, laughing together around a warm fire, feeling safe in your community, and taking time to be present. True productivity is not about fighting your physical body until it completely breaks down. It is about understanding your biological limits and deeply respecting them. So the next time you feel that heavy wave of modern shame creeping in, I want you to remember the brutal economy of the ancient world. We have built a world that demands the endless, tireless energy of a machine. But beneath your modern clothes, you are not a machine. You are a living, breathing biological masterpiece. You are the final result of hundreds of thousands of years of brutal, unforgiving evolution. Every single one of your ancestors had to fight through ice ages, massive predators, and constant starvation just so you could exist today. They did not survive by burning energy on pointless tasks. They survived by mastering the brilliant, life-saving art of resting whenever possible. So when your brain begs you to eat calorie-dense food, or to take a nap in the middle of the afternoon, listen carefully. It is not trying to ruin your productivity. It is trying to keep you alive using the exact same programming that saved our species. You cannot simply delete 2 million years of human evolution from your DNA. And honestly, you really shouldn't want to. Once you finally understand the prehistoric economy of calories, the heavy burden of modern societal expectations simply falls away from your shoulders. You can finally stop judging your perfectly healthy body by the toxic, artificial standards of the Industrial Revolution and the modern fitness industry. You can reclaim your right to rest. You can embrace your natural biological rhythms without an ounce of shame or hesitation. You are allowed to step off the endless treadmill of modern productivity. You are allowed to just sit still and exist. The next time society tries to make you feel bad for taking a break, remember the incredible journey of your ancient bloodline. Honor their incredible struggle. Honor the brilliant survival instincts they passed down to you through countless generations of hardship and triumph. Let go of the toxic modern guilt. You have absolutely nothing left to prove to a world that has forgotten its own history. So the next time you find yourself lying on the couch, staring at a screen, do not feel a heavy wave of guilt. You aren't lazy. You are a survivor.